Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. My name is Dawn, and I'm so excited to talk to another hometown fella from Stryker, Ohio, originally, by the way. I've got Brock Mealer with me today, and he's hailing from all the way on the other side of Northwest Ohio. He's from Wasion right now. Once he and his family lived in Stryker, Ohio. Just do you know literally that you guys lived maybe 2 miles, if that, from the house that I was growing up in? I had no idea
I did
until
not know that, no.
yeah. And here's a fun one for you. Did your mom tell you that she used to do my hair?
Oh, yes, yes. I probably get, that connection as much as I do the Michigan connection,
Yes.
that your mom used to do my hair. I mean, just it's amazing that, how many people have connected that way, so yeah,
That's so funny.
awesome.
Well,
Yeah, it's great to hear.
I love this because I got to speak to your brother last week, and we're going to be airing both episodes later on in the spring, or when we're airing this, we'll have already listened to your brother's episode. But I want to tell you how thankful I am for you to come on and share your story today, because without each of you, the other one would not have had the experience that each of you had. And I just am so, it's such a profound story of so much tragedy, but so much faith and so much inspiration that's come along with it. And Brock, and to kind of go back, Brock had an accident that took away two vital people out of his life back in 2007. It also took away his ability to walk. And at that point, Brock had to face numerous physical challenges and surgeries, rehabilitation. And he's going to speak on that today because the way that story weaves in and out of your family is absolutely, like I said, it's magically profound. It's very synchronistic. One piece different would make the whole story a completely different understanding and realization for all of you in the family. Your remarkable story of how this future unfolded for you. I'm so excited for you to share it. And interestingly enough, before we hit the record button today, we were talking. Brock is in the process of wrapping up his book that he is going to be releasing later this year. I can't wait. Have you named it yet? I didn't ask you that.
We have I wouldn't call it a working title, we have it just about set, but it's not in stone yet, so
Okay.
it's been a fun process doing that, finally
Yeah.
putting all the pieces together and getting it out there. So
Yeah. Well, it's going to
excited.
be awesome when it comes out. And that will be, and I will make sure to promote it and tell everybody about it because it's going to be a read that no one's going to want to put down. Following and chronicling your life and this process that you have been going through for the last since 2007, effectively, and before with your life as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so excited. You're doing public speaking as well on your story. So I'm going to let you take over and give us all this wonderful background about how you turned something so devastating into something so miraculous through faith and through hard work and through family and love and support. So, without further ado, here he is, Brock Mealer. Woohoo! And
Hey.
yeah, Ohio State University graduate. Yeah.
Yeah, I have my Michigan degree behind me. I got my MBA
Okay.
in 21 from Michigan, and I have my undergrad degree that I went back to finish after my accident. But as you said, it really does all start with faith,
Yeah.
and the accident itself was a big shaker in all of our faith. I mean, just how could something so tragic, and unfortunately, you hear many are oftentimes about stories like this, things that we never think are going to happen to us.
Yeah.
And that is a big question that was in my mind and in many people's minds of how could God allow something like this to happen? Losing my father and Elliot losing his girlfriend Hollis who was an absolute angel on earth.
Yeah.
And how could this happen to our family? We were on our way to church on
Yeah.
Christmas Eve,
Christmas Eve. Yeah.
and it makes a big question mark, many questions during that time,
For
that
sure.
we have to go back to our faith and what we truly believe. It tests your faith, and and I've gone out, I've given speeches and talked to people, and I've always tried to make a point of making sure people realize that this isn't a process that happened easily at all. It was not something that I relied on my faith and I just got through it and I'm good the whole way through. It was a roller coaster. It was ups and downs,
Yeah.
and it was constant questioning
Yes.
and looking for signs, looking for God, and that is that foundation, that hitting rock bottom, that holding on to that is what pulled us through that, what
Yeah.
pulled us up in those bad days, and particularly for me dealing with my ongoing physical challenges and disability that was constantly in my mind. But
Right.
I will say, far and above the hardest challenge we had was dealing with that loss. And when I go give speeches, that is the number one thing that people talk about, whether you lose a loved one too early and too young in life, which is a horrible thing, or losing someone late in life, someone that may be a grandparent that was inevitable. Maybe they lived a long, prosperous life at 90, and it's still such a difficult thing to
Yeah.
not have that person with you anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It leaves a hole. It leaves a hole there.
it
Mhm.
does, and it's in that grief. I heard a quote recently that grief is that ungiven love that we have that we weren't able to share, and that's why
Oh,
it's so
I love it.
painful. And we should appreciate the fact that we love someone. I think that was Andrew Garfield. I saw on a talk show, and he said he loves talking about his mother, and if he gets emotional, it's
Yeah.
because he had so much more love to give, and he wasn't able to. And I really appreciate that perspective from it, because
Yeah. It's
if we
great.
weren't if we weren't grieving, then the person may not have been as important to us. And if we were sad, the person wouldn't want us to grieve in a sad,
Hmm.
depressing way.
Right.
They'd want us to remember with a smile, which I think is what our family really has been able to do, is that we don't avoid that. We don't avoid talking about it, even when it is difficult to talk about the
Hmm.
situation. We mostly talk about those good times and how blessed we were to have the people we've lost in our lives. and
Hmm.
and with that accident, I will say that God has, I mean, that's what's made it so compelling, is even from my perspective, all of the things that came together following that accident to getting me where I am in life and where our
Hmm.
family is in life is really a credit to God writing that story. And I always tell
Yeah.
people that I don't ever buy into the thought that God's like, I need to have this accident happen and put him through this difficult thing to show this. I think
Yeah.
those bad things happen, but if we're willing and able to, you know, give God control of those situations, that he can turn that into a beautiful story in a place that doesn't seem to have any particularly joyful ending in sight. But
Yes.
he's able to weave those things together for us
Yeah.
and for his glory. And
Yeah.
he certainly has, he certainly has with us.
Well, I love what you said initially about reminding people that even with that faith, it still doesn't come easy. You still have to work at it. It's
Constant,
still a
constant.
muscle you have to exercise, basically.
Yeah, you do. And I will add too, with the accident, I remember that I was awake part of it, blacked out
Okay.
part of it, but um, felt an immense amount of pain. I
Yeah.
don't know how long I was even in the car, but when I was taken out of the car, I remember someone telling me that I was going to feel an immense amount of pain. And at the time, I think I was in shock and I didn't really understand what. I mean, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And at the time, I felt okay, except I couldn't feel my legs, and it didn't really come. I couldn't figure out why. I
Right.
can't feel my legs right now. I just need to get out of this car.
Yeah.
But when they lifted me out of that car, I did, as he said, feel more pain than I've ever felt in my entire
Mm.
life. I was taken to the Fulton County Health Center, which was only maybe 10 minutes from where our accident was.
Mhm.
But it was there that my older brother met me at the hospital
Uh-huh.
and was as distraught as we were. He was with his fiance at the time at a different Christmas, and got the call, and we were told that our father had passed away at that time. And I don't think that really. I mean, I was distraught, but I mean, it didn't really. I didn't
Wasn't
get
registering
it.
with you at that
No,
point. Yeah.
no, it just didn't seem real. Which really, all of this seemed to be an absolute nightmare
Yeah.
that I was just like, just wake up, like, just wake up
Yeah.
and get out of this.
Mhm.
And from there, I really didn't know anything. I was transferred to Toledo by ambulance
Okay.
because of the weather, and then I ended up at St. V's in Toledo and was just told that I was going to be going to surgery.
Okay.
Still really did not, I didn't have any of this registering.
Uh-huh.
And I remember counting down from 10 and getting to 8. And by the time I fell asleep at 8. And then by the time I would have been at 3 or 2 in my head, I woke up from surgery. I
That's
mean, I've never
amazingly
been,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, I've never been put under for any surgery in my life. But I
Wow,
mean,
okay.
it
Wow.
seemed about like 10 seconds I woke up, and they
Yeah.
said I was under for 8.5 hours, that
Oh gosh, Brock.
yeah, my spine had been, my vertebrae had been broken in 2 places and replaced, and that I had a spinal cord injury and I would likely never walk again.
Oh, goodness.
And it was a lot like a movie in that I felt like it just was this mumbled voice after that. Like nothing else she had to say really mattered to me at the
Yeah.
time, but she did end up, um, telling me that even if I had the best hope in all the world, that that moving or even having any sense of feeling in my legs, I'd have a 1% chance.
A 1% chance.
Yeah, and that was one of the few things that did register with me, that 1%. And she said that's
Yeah.
giving you more credit than maybe should be deserved. I mean, just
Oh,
there's really
wow.
no hope, but just everybody wants a number.
Yeah.
Um, she said I may need assistance throughout my life. I may
Mhm.
have pain issues. I may have all kinds of things, which again didn't really register. I was still feeling, and again, I had just woken up from the surgery, but I thought
That's like a
I gotta wake up again and get out of this.
right, so this is all transpired over the course less than a day.
Yeah, yeah. It was, at that time, I believe, um, that would have been Christmas
Christmas
morning. It
Day.
was
Yeah.
so yeah, it would have been that just 12 hours. Everything had changed in my life, over that short period of time.
Yeah.
A man running a stop sign at a particular moment. My dad was somebody who always drove the exact speed limit. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the questions running through my mind is, if I had stopped to tie my shoe before getting in the car,
Wow.
uh, if I had gotten in the car sooner, if everyone just piled in the car and we left, I mean,
Mhm.
just a 1 second sooner,
Yeah.
that accident wouldn't have happened.
Do
If
you still think about that? Or has that kind of idea faded for you?
it has faded, there's times where it's, one of those questions you get asked, or maybe you ask yourself is,
Mhm.
would you go back and would you change it?
Yeah.
And, there's nothing in the world there's nothing in the world I wouldn't give to have my dad back or to have
Right.
Hollis back. And that is something that I absolutely would change. But then I look at my situation as far as being paralyzed and going through that, which outside of the accident and that loss is the worst thing that has happened in my life.
Mhm.
And I look at the whole body of work of what God has, the purpose He's brought in my life, the people I've been
Yeah.
able to help, and I've, there's no reason for me to enjoy the struggle and the pain I've gone through, but
Ah,
I see all the people that I've been able to help and impact in a positive way, and I could never take that away and say I want to avoid all these bad things because because of how painful it was. But then I
mhm.
also lose out on the good things that
Right.
God has brought into my life to help someone, and a lot of times somebody, oftentimes younger than I was. I was 23 at the time, just finishing
Yes.
college, which isn't fun. But you have somebody that's in high school that might be paralyzed. I met a young girl that was, uh, 8 or 9 years old and woke up paralyzed after
Oh,
being fine going to sleep. And I think about, if even just her, if I wasn't able to give her that encouragement and inspiration, if I wasn't even able to meet her because my life went a different direction and I
right,
avoided
right,
that, like
right.
I couldn't give that away to avoid the pain that I'd gone through.
Yeah, I think and you said something I thought was really interesting, you're not here to enjoy the struggle. None of us are here to enjoy the struggle. We have to endure the struggle, I believe. And that's the lesson that we all walk through, no matter what our struggle is. It can be big, it can be very small, but
Yeah.
I love that. I love that perspective that you're talking about. It about having to shift your mentality to not enjoy the struggle.
But yeah, and to answer your question, I feel like that has been a passing thought. It was one that came on very, very often while I was at the hospital.
Yeah.
Like just looking back and saying, "Man, how could this have been different? How could have I changed um, the things that had happened?" But now it isn't so much. It really is more so looking into the future, which I think is a challenge for everyone that goes through. Because whatever the biggest tragedy you've been through is the biggest tragedy you've been through. And to be able to start looking forward from that, I think there is a time where you're reflecting, where you're absorbing again, just to
Yeah.
have it all register and have it all process is
Yes.
a
For sure.
challenge. And you do have to go through that. But then there does become the intentionality of when do you move past that? When do you find the time to go forward
Mhm.
and and choose to use it how you want
Yeah.
because and I've seen that as well in people I've met where I see they've um, gotten to that crossroad and maybe they haven't taken that path to move on yet and that's their
Yeah.
own prerogative, but then
Yeah.
I also look and it's a reflection of me because I was at the crossroad and I could have gone easily gone that direction to feeling negative or feeling
Yeah.
sorry for myself and nobody I don't think would have really judged me for that and say, well, he has every right to be bitter, to be
Absolutely.
angry, to be just upset about everything that has happened to him.
Mhm.
But that's I think most people do come to the realization through maturity or in many ways to look back and say, I don't regret making that choice of moving on and to
Yeah.
embracing what I can be and what I can do with my life with the cards I've been dealt.
Right. It's choice. And I again, it's another, and I think you bring up a really interesting point too. I think maturity has a lot to do with that. And I love the visual of the crossroads. You can choose one direction or the other. That's your choice. Um, how long do you feel you sat in that reflection period? Because at 23 years old, I mean, I would imagine, and the loss of your father and your brother's girlfriend that was basically your family. You know,
Mhm.
I if you're processing not only that, but then you're processing the news that you received less than a day later after this accident happened, and you're thinking about all the things that you could have done a little bit different if I would have just waited a little bit longer, if I would have gone a little bit quicker. When do you feel like there was a click for you that went, okay, I'm gonna choose this crossroad, this road, and
Mhm.
this is my trajectory. This is what I can do with it, and this is where I'm headed.
Yeah, I think it seemed to come. I mean, obviously, this is looking back. I certainly at the time didn't think, you know what, here, I'm going to make this, move this way.
Mhm.
But I think there were stages and
Okay.
really, in a lot of ways, baby steps. The first one being, I had a lot of complications at Toledo, which wasn't really any um, uh, fault of the hospital in Toledo. It was just
Mhm.
that's the condition I was in. A lot of
Yeah.
things we were fighting against with dehydration. One of my legs was always cold, and my mom would she'd hold my feet, and every now and then it would really startle me because I would see her, but I couldn't feel her touch my feet, and it would just
Yeah.
it was like I was in pain. I
Yeah.
wasn't in pain, but or she's holding my foot, but it's not my foot, and
Yeah.
but she would feel that it's one of them's colder than the other, and she'd ask about it, and a nurse would pull her aside and say that circulation isn't getting there for some reason,
Wow.
and that leg could be dead. Like it's been a couple
Okay.
days. He's dehydrated. I think I got overhydrated. Like I didn't even know that was a thing, but
Yeah.
my sodium and potassium levels were way down, and I
Yeah.
had it was like full of water, so I couldn't drink anything. They were giving me ice chips. I mean, I was like, I already am going through a lot of struggle here, and now I can
Yeah.
only eat ice chips and uh, and anyway, had to get through those things. For a long time, I didn't even use the bathroom, but I wasn't even
Mhm.
having to go because hadn't eaten anything. They're like, "Oh, he
Right.
just doesn't have to because he hasn't eaten that. He's not
Right.
hungry after the surgery, whatever it was." But um, they thought my whole body was backed up. I mean, all kinds of problems that happened. Some of them I wasn't aware of my leg being cold like that until
Yeah.
weeks passed. Which my leg, the circulation came back and it was fine. And they're like, "Geez, that's remarkable, really
Okay.
a miracle," because it seemed like that time had passed where it should come back. And
Mhm.
anyway, that next stage was really getting to Ann Arbor. And I remember the night before we left, or maybe 2 nights before we left, I had to get off a very strong drug. And I thought, never really had any addictions.
Mhm.
And I felt so much pain. I told him I have to have whatever that drug is because the
Mm.
pain is it. And it was such a weird thing because it was kind of a phantom pain because I felt
Mhm.
like my legs were in twisted positions, but I could just look down and I could see my legs in front of me.
Yeah.
But then I would close my eyes and my legs were all twisted, my left and right, like my pelvis was flipped around, and I'd open
Wow.
my eyes and everything's still there, but it felt like that's what was happening. And I had to take this drug and I couldn't get transferred unless I got off that strong drug and
Yeah.
went to a tablet or some other pain medication. And I had to have it. I said, I just can't. And I'm like, if this is what someone that's addicted feels, then
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. But I did
Yeah.
take that, and then I thought, is that pain in my head or is it real? Well,
Right. The
it's in my
yeah.
head. It's not real. It is in my head, but because I'm looking right at my leg, like nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
And so it was in my head, but I had to have it. And that next
Mm.
day, we finally made it the
Mhm.
24-hour window, and it just scared me to death that I would go to Michigan, and all of a sudden, if I felt like that again,
Mhm.
um, after that point, none of the pain medications really did anything for me, but I never
Oh,
got to that level 10 because then I was
yeah.
like, they ask you what your pain level is. I'm like, well, I'm not at what I assume that's level 10 because that's the most I'd felt
Yes.
getting out of the car. And then also that 2 nights before I left for Ann Arbor, those were both tens. I'm like,
Yes.
that's my 10. My
Yeah.
10 before would have been half that. And now
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt what a real 10 is. So everything after that was probably a 5 or lower, but I'd get up
Yeah.
to a 5 and that was my old 10. But anyway, that was a stage I think of, hey, here's a way. I got to Ann Arbor, I got to do physical therapy.
Mhm.
I never missed a day, although I had a lot of days where I started my day with vomiting
Mm.
or something else that I didn't have planned that
Yeah.
threw a wrench in the gears, but I never
Yeah.
missed a day. I wanted to get down there. It was a new process. It was an opportunity to do something positive.
Yeah.
But when I left the hospital and got home that was the time when I realized this is real.
Yeah.
Like I'm back home and my dad's not there. It's like
Yeah.
I'm not going to wake up from this nightmare. It's real. This is my life now.
Yeah.
And I spent about a year and a half doing outpatient physical therapy, and I really don't think I fully embraced, my future and my life until uh, I reconnected with Elliot's strength coach,
Mhm.
and I had differing opinions, like physical therapy saying, "Don't waste your entire life trying to walk again." And
Oh, wow.
she has seen it so many times, and she meets people and they regret it. They wasted their entire life chasing an impossible dream, effectively.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Don't become that bitter 50-year-old person that has wasted away these years trying to grab this ghost."
Yeah.
And I felt like my brother left early. When
Mhm.
I was still in the hospital in Ann Arbor, he had left high school early to start his college career
Mhm.
and start his next stage towards his future.
Yes.
And again, something that no one would have blamed him for saying, what, I'm taking a pause here
Mhm.
and just absorbing what happened. But he embraced, going towards the future
Yeah.
and the opportunity there. Um, and I was able to say, what, I have an opportunity here to do something special.
Right.
And what I don't want to do is regret having not taken that chance,
Yes.
even though after a year and a half, I had not made much progress.
Okay.
I could, with all my effort and everything I could do in me, kind of like when the doctor tests your knee for reflex, I could
Right.
move my leg a little bit. And I said, if
Mhm.
I could kick my leg twice as far in another year plus,
Yeah.
it's like that would be a long time to get a
Yeah.
little bit more. But I said, well, Mike had told me, he's like, if you want to have more progress. You have to work harder. And he said,
Okay.
physical therapy is the hardest thing you've done in your life. So you just have to work harder than that. Oh, just have
Yeah.
to work harder than the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
But I did not want to have the regret of not having taken, that chance. And that's where I really think and that's where I committed with Mike. He said,
Mhm.
it's going to get hard. That's a guarantee.
Mhm.
We don't know what progress you're going to have, but he said, you have to commit 100% to this. And I think that
Mhm.
was really that first step of, I am going to give 100%, not just towards walking, like I have to walk, but I'm going to commit to giving it my all.
Yes.
And I'm going to commit in the future to giving my all, not just
Yes.
doing this weakest level because I have, and I bring that up a lot. I have these excuses are on a golden platter.
Right?
They're the best ones you could ask for. If you need,
Right?
and everyone's had those moments. Oh, I wish I had a good excuse for why this or that happened. And you're looking for it. I didn't have to search for them. I had them all lined up in front of me. These are the best excuses in the world. And
Mhm.
I could say, which one do I want to pick today to
Right?
avoid having to do a workout or something hard? And that's it's not, again, not an easy thing, and it certainly wasn't for me to just say, you know what, I'm not going to make an excuse. I made that choice every day that no, I'm
Mhm.
not. It's so tempting and so easy,
Yes.
but I'm not going to. And Mike, he said, you have to make that commitment that you're going to give your all. It's
Right.
going to get really hard. You're not going to like it. He's like, you're probably not going to like me, but you will
Yeah.
be here every day that I tell you to be here, and you will do what I tell you to do. And I took that step, and I really think that's where I, again, not committing myself to walking because I didn't have to, but I
Right.
committed myself towards a future and choosing what I wanted to do, not what that person wanted, not necessarily what my mom wanted. I think my brother scared her to death.
Oh, no.
He's like, this guy is,
He's mean.
he's not like another coach that's like, hey, let me help you, but a physical
Yeah.
therapist. Hey, you did good. There were times I would test my physical therapist because I just pretend like, oh man, I'm really pushing here, and they're like, that was the best one, and I'm like, I didn't even
Ah,
try. Like I wasn't even trying to push.
Brock.
And I knew that Mike was not.
He ain't taking it.
I even tested Mike, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh man, like I'm really. He's like, you're doing nothing. You're literally doing, and I would just laugh to myself because I'm like, yeah, I was doing nothing.
Yeah.
It was testing you, but
Yeah.
he did not cut me any slack. And my brother told my mom, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. She doesn't like seeing any, no mom likes seeing their kid
It
struggle like
struggling,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Well, let me back up just a bit because this is where the interesting family piece comes in because
yes,
Elliot
yeah,
was a football player, recruited to play at the University of Michigan when he was in high school yet.
yeah,
And his dream, however, was always to go to the Ohio State University to play. And he told me when we talked last week, like every time he tried, it just didn't fit. It just
mhm,
wasn't fitting. And that University of Michigan, and if you're from that area of the country like we are, this rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan is serious
yes,
business. Yeah,
yeah,
serious. And you guys grew up in a household where your dad and your grandfather were like, I mean, diehard Ohio State Buckeye fans. Yeah.
yes,
But
and
for
they
him to
did.
get that opportunity to go to the University of Michigan was just
Mhm,
and your dad, he said your dad supported it and loved it, and it was the right fit, and if he would have gone another direction, you would not have gotten the
yeah,
chance to seize the opportunity that you had by when you were through with your spinal rehabilitation hospital, you went
yeah,
to the University of Michigan, to
yeah,
his athletic trainer. That's who you're
yeah.
talking about. It's
Yes,
amazing.
and I do think it started there because it was, again, it really was a God thing because I know that my dad and even Elliot, he said, I'll go up there, and it's cool. You finally have this opportunity that you have a D1, and there were other D1 schools. I think Miami of Ohio, and
Yeah.
I think even Purdue University was
Yeah.
sending them letters and chatting with them.
Yeah.
Becomes real, and even getting that letter for Purdue, which, I mean, they're in the Big Ten, but it
Mhm.
wasn't any favor one way or the other with Purdue. But it was like all of a sudden, it's like
Mhm.
you're kind of a boiler. Like, this is pretty cool. They like me.
Yeah.
They're interested in what I have to offer. And he actually had a coach come down from Michigan to the school, and I think the athletic director told him, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, you know, is it Eastern or Central?" Or he's like, "No, it's Michigan.
Like
Like
Michigan,
we,
he
it's
thought
University of
he
Michigan."
didn't think it was the Michigan?
No, no, and I don't and he went down and met with the coach. I think it was the offensive line coach at the
Yeah.
time, and, uh, and just was like, I mean, he
Whoa.
came to the school to see me, like, that's pretty compelling, and I think
Yeah.
my dad and brother went up there and said, "You know what? That's cool, they're interested, let's just go look,
Yeah,
let's go
yeah,
look."
yeah.
And yeah, he fell in love with the place, and to do that, that's the thing. For Ohio State, the bar would have been here. Like, if I kind of like it, like, okay, they're over the bar.
Right,
Michigan's bar probably was way up here for them going up
right.
there, and far and above. It's like, oh my, I'm supposed to be here. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think he quite understood why, but it's like, this is where I'm supposed to be. It just
right.
everything feels right. And I remember he called me. It wasn't the day he went up there, but sometime after he called me, and I was in my dorm at Ohio State when he told me,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "Are you messing with me? You messing with me?" Because I mean, it was such an unlikely thing for a rival. Like I
Yeah,
said, if it had been, Purdue, Wisconsin, or any of these schools, it would have been
different.
all on equal playing field. Like,
Yeah,
that's cool. And
yeah.
but Michigan was one that, just growing up, is a big no no. We had to watch Michigan win every single year that Ohio State had a top five team. We had to watch them win in the '90s, and um,
I remember.
yeah, and
Yes.
anyways, yeah, but just it's a crazy thing for him. I mean, to get a opportunity to play for D1 school,
Right,
and we had no idea, obviously, what that decision really entailed altogether. But
right.
several of Elliott's coaches came to see me at the hospital, which he had just met because
Mhm.
the coach that had recruited him was leaving. New
Right.
coaches came in, and the day I met Mike at the hospital, I knew something was special because he told me he wanted to help me walk again.
Oh,
And
that's
even
the
that,
athletic trainer.
yes, Mike
Yeah.
Barwas was the strength. He was the head of strength and conditioning. And I remember the physical therapist pulling him aside and saying, "Ooh, like, he has a spinal cord injury." He's like, he just nodded. I know, they don't. You can't walk it off. You can't outwork it. You can't do any of those things. And he kind of nodded. And I remember it kind of deflated me because I'm like, I don't care if he's crazy or not. I love the mentality. Let's just
Right,
go with that because I feel
right.
crazy right now anyway with
Yeah.
my
What do I
life is
have to
like.
lose? Let's go.
Yeah, and I thought he was also gonna be deflated, like, "Ooh, God, I didn't know it was
Mhm,
that bad." Like, I thought
mhm.
it was like an ACL, but he
Yeah,
did not get deflated at all.
yeah.
"So when do you wanna come learn to walk? Like, we'll push you. We'll get you there." And I just thought, "This is awesome." And I didn't know at the time, like I said, a year passed before I went there
Yeah.
and fully committed. And my brother said, he's like, "The choice you have to make is if you wanna give, like, everything." Because he said, he did two-a-days in football.
Right?
I had done 1 year of two-a-days, that was enough for me. I'm like, that's not easy going
I'm done.
through,
Yeah.
pretty much a full day of lifting
Mhm.
and running and
Yeah,
hitting and all these different things they throw at you.
yeah.
And Elliot said even for him, it was so much harder than that. They made
Mhm.
it so much more challenging, pushed you way farther than anything even close in high school.
Yeah,
And which he realized because to be a D1 athlete, you can't just do what the volleyball coach says for that 3-month season or
yeah,
off season for a month. You have to do above and beyond that.
absolutely.
And then they push you even further. And
Yeah,
he told me that. He's like, this guy will. I'm not joking. Like, he's not going to baby you in any way.
yeah,
Like, he will push you past your limit. That's what he does. And everyone's told me, just so you're clear and your brother's clear, like, this is what it's going to be.
yeah.
And I think so many times in life, and even at that time for me, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm still in pain at times. I'm very weak. I think
Mhm.
typically I was over 200 pounds in the hospital. I got on, I think, 165 or 170.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I had gotten back to 200, but I was still pretty weak.
Yeah,
My arm was broken, and
okay.
it was in a cast, and my arm was almost nothing left at one time. And I'm building that up,
Yeah,
and again, a year later, I'm recovering and I'm feeling better. I'm getting used to my situation, but I mean, I'm still far from my prime. I
yeah,
at that time, 24, going on 25, maybe around the time I committed to Mike, and um, but far from feeling energized and all those good things.
yeah.
And anyway, I think people a lot of times you talk yourself out of. I'm like, I'm really weak. Like, a lot of times I'm just randomly I'll throw up because I stood up too much, or maybe I didn't lay down enough, or
Wow, Brock. Yeah.
they have a they have a condition that with spinal cord injury and kind of the confusion with your
Mhm.
mind. Um, for me, it was hot and cold temperatures,
Yeah.
and like my legs never even they wouldn't sweat until for some reason when I was working out with Mike, all of a sudden my legs started sweating like they used to. They didn't sweat at all, which was kind of nice. But
Wow.
but I would go in hot.
Before in your physical therapy, they never had?
They weren't, no. Like, I mean, and if I did, it might be very, very small, but I
Oh,
was always a big sweater,
yeah.
and, uh, and when I started with Mike, then my legs were and I don't think it was because the workouts were so hard. I think it just the body was kinda trying to get back to its normal state,
Yes.
and getting used to be and standing up. I mean, I was standing up for so long,
Yeah.
and it was getting used to that, but anyways, there's a condition where doing some of these things or having like pain that you
Mhm.
don't feel if you had an injury or something, you could get headaches and
Mhm.
you could sweat, you could feel lightheaded because your
Yeah.
body doesn't understand what's going on down there. You know, you
Yes.
have um like I said, even the hot and cold, like you can't regulate below that level of injury, right?
Right.
So you get a headache and you have problems. Autonomic dysreflexia. I
Yeah.
luckily haven't had much of that lately,
Okay.
but anyways, those were the I talk myself out of this. Like,
Yeah.
what are you
It'd be
doing
easy
here?
to do.
Yeah, everybody in there is the fastest, strongest person in the country, or and they're in the top 1,000 or 100,000 or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
They're the best at what they do, and here I am rolling in a wheelchair, and it just felt totally out of place. It's so, and I, anyways, the difference for Mike, and I think this is a really powerful lesson, but Mike was effectively begging me, "Please let me work with you. Like,
Okay.
do me a favor," which is so funny because I think it's, which a lot of things in life I feel like have been these, and I think God has set it up that way where they're counterintuitive, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where here I have this guy who is just has all the pressure in the world on him. Like, you got to perform.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
team has to win. These guys have to do this. He has no time. He lives in a gym and he's like, "Hey, can you please let me work?" He's asking for a favor from me when
Yeah.
I have everybody else doing favors for me. I'm asking people, "Hey, do you mind helping me, get dressed in the morning, or you
Yeah.
mind helping me get up this step because there's a
Mhm.
step and I can't maneuver my wheelchair and someone's helping me."
Yeah.
And here I have somebody, which that's what stood out to me. He's asking me a favor, and it really was kind of funny because in my mind it's like, you know what? I'm gonna do you a favor. I'll let you help me. I'll let
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
work me out and help me recover. And I just
Yes.
that's what really stood out to me is that I wouldn't I would never I'm the kind of person too where I'm not, "Hey, could you give me, 4 to 6 hours of your time every
Mhm.
weekday to train me and do what you get." I mean, and I didn't know at the time. I mean, he's trained Olympic athletes, he's
Mhm.
trained World Series winners, he's
Mhm.
trained Stanley Cup. I mean, he's trained it all. He's trained
Yeah.
it all, and his wife was a gymnast. I mean, they're all just athletes, but
Yeah.
I mean, he gets paid big bucks to do. And it's like, hey, could you do it for free, and give me 4 to 6 hours every weekday for the next couple of years? I would never ask someone to do that big of a favor. That's
No, right?
crazy talk. But he's actually asking me for a favor. Let me work with you, and it's like, you know what? Okay, and that really was a difference in trying to compel someone, which again counterintuitive.
Yes.
It's not, "Hey, I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna give you something for free. I'm gonna get you to walk." I'm doing you a he totally reversed it. It was like, "Would you do me a favor and let me work with you?" And I don't know if he saw that in my personality or what or if, I mean, really, it really could be that simple. Genuinely, he I think, and he had told me that God was telling him, "You got to help this kid."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's like he had this mission that God placed in the back of his mind and would not leave him alone. He said he'd wake up in the middle of the night and write down different workouts. And that was before I was working out with him.
Oh, wow.
And so
Wow, that's amazing.
I think he legitimately, God was bugging him about it,
Yeah. He wasn't
and he
gonna let
said,
it
"Can you
go.
do me a favor? Because I got this voice in my head, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna go away unless you let me do this."
Yeah.
And that's actually worked for me because I was like, I would never ask someone to do that big of a favor, especially
Yeah.
a guy I just met a year before.
Yeah.
And every time I'd visit Elliot, he'd bug me. He'd go out of his way and he'd come catch me and say, "Hey, like, come work out with us. It's great." And the first time I did work out with him, I fell off of a balance ball and I was like, "Oh no,
Uh-huh.
he's gonna be like, yeesh." This kid
Yeah.
can't even sit on a balance ball. I don't. Again, I'm talking myself out of it.
Yeah.
I have had a lot of people say, "Boy, I would love to work out with a team," and I'm like, "No, you wouldn't. Trust me." I'm like, "No, you
Let
wouldn't."
me tell ya.
They had a bunch of sports reporters, and Mike, for an interview, Mike said, "Just go through the warm up with the team," and they do it. Okay, I'll do the warm up.
Mhm.
They were after 10 minutes, they're off to the side puking in a
Yeah, they're
garbage
dying.
can.
Yeah,
Like,
they can't handle it.
you've earned your interview. I've
Yeah.
had that more than once, but anyways, that I think was a big difference for me. And
Mhm.
again, never would have happened if my brother, and again, nothing
Mhm.
against anyone else, he could have gone to any other school.
Right.
And one, I don't think a person would have offered because they got their hands full. They got
Right.
the weight of the world on their shoulders. But even if they had offered, for them to be, I don't know that anyone would have either loved me or hated me enough to put me through the workout Mike did.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they might have and rightfully so, they might have handled me with kid gloves. I wouldn't have got where I got. I mean,
No,
just
not
all
at all.
those things aligned. Elliot went to the one rival school, went to Michigan, and it was close enough to home, which is a big reason why I went to the hospital there, is so
Yes.
people could visit. But it was
Yeah.
one of the best in the country for spinal cord injuries,
Mhm.
and yeah, all those things aligned. And it wasn't obviously any part of our plan as far as, hey, let's do this XYZ. I'm going to
Mhm.
walk again. Oh, I could work out with football. None of that was in the plan. It was all
Right.
pieces laid out in front of me, and I do credit that to at least always resetting to a positive attitude and being open to
Mhm.
the opportunity, because you look at the closed door and you stare at the closed door and you miss every single other one that's open.
That's yeah, what another great visual right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
about that. We are so fixated on that one thing, and
Hmm.
Elliot talked about this too. Like, Ohio State for him was like the flesh, what him wanting that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Michigan was really the calling,
Yes.
and for the reasons at that point, he had no idea.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really indicative of the human nature. A lot of times we just look at that. We put those blinders on our sides and we go, "This is the door. This is what I'm dedicated to. This is what I will accept nothing less." And then we
Hmm.
close down our ability to see, to receive, to open up to all the different little pieces of opportunity. And even if it's just like a millimeter of an opportunity, it's an opportunity.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Those little whispers come through.
Yeah.
That's a
And
hard,
you do have to be listening over all the noise. It's
right.
hard.
Yeah. How much noise was there for you during all this?
Oh,
Was it
there's
your own internal noise?
I think for the most part, yeah. I had many nights, many sleepless nights at the hospital.
Mhm.
And it was internal noise, which again I go back to asking that question.
Mhm.
Like, hello, like God, perfect silence, middle of the night,
Yeah.
where are you? Like what are you doing to help me? Like why am I in such a terrible situation, which at that
Mhm.
time I had read a lot of the book of Job, and felt that way, that all these bad things are just piling on. Like, what did I do
Yeah.
to deserve this? And it was it was a lot of my own noise. And
Mhm.
I do believe, again, just like Elliot, I don't think he knew. I mean, he was excited for Michigan. I don't think he knew all those different factors, that the people he, met, and
Mhm.
the process he went through as a football player, and as a man. He didn't know everything that would happen based on that choice, and the
Yeah.
and how much it would impact many people's lives.
Yes.
But in the same way, I look back on the days at the hospital, and I feel like in hindsight, all those times I asked, like, where are you, God? And I had all the people that would come in and say, my whole class is praying for you, my whole
Mhm.
church is praying for you.
Mhm.
And it isn't until you're through it that you look back and someone say, how did you get through that?
Yeah.
And I say to myself, I don't know. I was like, where's God? And it really is the footprints in the sand thing that you
Yeah.
look, oh, with one set of footprints. And I do, it's like, even though in the moment with all the noise and the fighting in my head, and
Mhm.
it was God's not here. He doesn't care. Look at you,
Oh,
and having
wow.
to block that out, and again, reset the morning. Like, got a new day. Let me embrace it. And
Yeah.
then immediately have to go puke in the toilet because I get lightheaded because I've
Mm.
been laying down so much, and sitting up, I have to get used to it.
Yeah.
But I would still press on, try to press and do my best. And
Mhm.
And I look back and I see all these little moments of uh, when I was really down, and I had a pastor from the Shiloh Church that would come, and I didn't know him. I didn't know him. Elliot knew him very well. He knew
Okay.
Hollis really well, and he came up I believe, every Wednesday around 1 o'clock because that's when I had recreation time,
Yeah.
and we would play whatever the board game of the day was. I'd
Okay.
stand up and play a board game. In the middle of our game, they would use this machine to sit me back down so I could catch my breath and not be so lightheaded or
Yeah.
whatever. Stand back up, keep playing, and you know, I had those people that just dropped in, and I had one of my close friends from high school that came up every Thursday night, and that's when the athletes visited,
Yeah.
and he would come up every single Thursday night,
Oh, I
and
love
you know, and
it.
those little things really did carry me through. Or
Mhm.
I would have a special. My mom would bring up a big banner from a class,
Mhm.
and I didn't know it at the time, but that was going to be another rough night for me. And I'd
Yeah.
look up at that banner and just read some of the little kids' names that, you know, write their letters backwards or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and just give me that little smile that carried me through the night. And so now I look back in hindsight, all that time spent, like, God, like, give me a sign or something. And I always think of the scene in Bruce Almighty when he's like, God, and he's driving. He's like, look at
Yeah.
this guy. And there's a truck with all these signs saying stop,
Yeah.
detour,
Yeah.
slow down. He's like, get out of the road, pal. And, you
Yeah.
know, goes around. It's like, it's right there. Slow down,
Yes.
like, stop. And I feel like that's how it is. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh, now I see the irony there when I'm begging for some sign. And it was right there. It was
Yeah.
Mike showing up at the hospital and saying, let's do this. And if I had been in a bad mood, well, she took the, you know, wind out of my sails. She
Mhm.
said, that ain't ever going to happen.
Yeah.
You're stuck where you are. I mean, we had a chat one day that was like, this wheelchair is a part of your life. Whether you like it or not,
Oh,
you got to
wow.
embrace it. And
Mhm.
it kind of got awkward. It's like, well, I'm not one with the chair. It's okay. I can use it as a tool. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I can accept that I need it day to day. But Mike did the opposite.
Okay.
And, eventually at the gym, it seemed kind of mean at the time, but he's
Oh,
like,
I
no
know what you're gonna
wheelchair.
say. Your brother
Yeah.
said this. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't let you bring the wheelchair in
And
the
then I'm
gym?
like, well, no, do you not want me to come back? No, you're welcome. We want you here. You have to
Yeah.
come here. The wheelchair cannot. So I crawled around the gym. I crawled around the
Rock.
gym. Yeah. And I thought, is this some kind of a test, you know, is to see
Yeah.
how committed I am? And in hindsight, though, I look at it, you know, the chairs, you know, there was that chairs part of you thing.
Mhm.
I would leave that gym, and I'm not kidding. Part of it was I'm so tired, I can't really think, but
Yeah.
I would see that chair and it would confuse me. Like, what is that?
Mhm.
And I was, oh yeah, like I forgot that I had to use that because I didn't have to. That's the thing. I had it in, you know, branded into my mind. You have to use this. So I don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's the thing when I was in the gym, uh, at the time I wasn't walking very well, but I could just hate people would carry me and
Yeah.
I'd kind of try to take steps. But I mean, those big, they'd grab a couple football guys and I would just put my arms and they'd carry me. Sometimes I'd take a few steps.
Okay.
But mostly that was me lifting my body with my arms and
Mhm.
shifting my whole body and my hips and
Yeah.
taking steps. But, you know, eventually did get to the point. I mean, most of the time I was crawling, and I said,
Yeah.
"Do I get like a rest break?" And they said, "Well, that crawling across the room was your rest break." I said, "I didn't rest. I'm tired."
This is
But
not this is
yeah,
not a break, guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't get that. And usually he'd be with me for an hour or two,
Uh-huh.
and he'd leave, and he'd say, "Parker knows exactly what to do. Keep him at it." We do some stretching,
Yeah.
and then we might do some movements and things. But we were busy the whole time. He'd come back like, "All right, you ready to go?" Like, "We've been going since you
We've been
left. We've
here.
been
Like,
going."
well, how many hours would
We're
you
still going.
average when you were there?
I mean, I was there for 6 hours. I mean, I might be
Wow.
there for 5 some days or maybe 7 sometimes, and I will say too, there were times I was stretching or I might they would bring me food, but I'm like, I don't wanna eat. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
hungry, too
Yeah.
tired to eat. But
Yeah.
I would get, you know, protein shakes and things like I would just drink whatever my mom would be running Gatorades to me and have a cooler. We would just be you know, there were times where it was actual rest breaks or
Right.
lunch break,
Right.
and stretching and having my body in a different position. I might even be standing, but it's pretty much a rest because I'm just like in a standing position and just
Mhm.
hanging there.
Mhm.
But I was there for 6 hours. I mean, I swear there were times where the janitors were shutting lights out, and it's like we gotta. But he wouldn't let me leave without accomplishing the task at hand. And most of
Okay.
the time, I would say I couldn't do it on the first or second one, and then I started getting better.
Mhm.
But I missed my window of where I actually had the energy to do it, and then
Mm.
I had the practice to know what I had to do.
Mhm.
That window has passed and gone,
Yeah.
and I'd be
Yeah.
on try 50. Why would I, be able to get it? But they found
Right.
a way, and sometimes there'd be you'd say, "All right, you can kind of hold on to Parker for a little bit or something," but we'd
Okay.
always accomplish whatever the task was for the day, one way or another. And that's the thing; it was together. I think
Mhm.
I have, like many people, you have that challenge where you think like you don't understand what I go through, like you don't
Mhm.
understand my challenges and my
Mhm.
frustrations, my
Yeah.
uh, cards I've been dealt or
Yeah.
whatever the thing is. But with Mike and Parker, I don't know if I know any other time, sometimes with my high school sports teams and all that, you go through a lot together, but I don't know anyone that really knows the experience that I went through, uh, outside of, my brothers, my brother
Mhm.
Blake that was with me throughout the hospital, throughout
Yeah.
physical therapy, trying to handle the family business and be a
Yeah.
part of what I was going through. And then Elliot, who of course was there when I was doing those workouts, seeing what I'm going through,
Yeah.
and then Parker and Mike, who were right there next to me with the workouts and seeing them. I mean, they go through their own workout when they fit it in. They do their own. I mean, they go through it, but they were
Right.
there with me, and they know it almost as well as I do, even though they don't get to experience it. And you do have people in your life that you care
Uh-huh.
about that they go through a tough experience with you, even though it's not on them. They're still taking some of that pressure and they're
Yeah.
taking some of those blows with you. They're emotionally there with you.
You're invested.
They're invested. I mean,
Mhm.
most of the time, I feel like Mike and Parker might even be more invested than I was. There were times where
Yeah.
I hit low, low,
Sure.
but they're trying to bring me back up. Of like, you realize you're doing something that no one gets the opportunity to do.
Oh,
They
wow.
never even get the
Mhm.
chance to do, and
Yeah.
you're doing it, and we're
Yeah.
getting to be a part of it. And to them, it was all. It's like it really was all their benefit to them. They felt like they were blessed to just be able to get to be associated with me. And I'm like, well,
Wow.
you
And the
know,
same for you.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, truly I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm the lucky one. I'm the one you're giving a
Wow.
shot to when nobody else would have. And
Yeah.
yet they think that they're blessed to work with me, which he's shown me he has been. That's given him a new purpose in life, new direction in
Oh, I
life.
love it.
And it's an amazing thing when you have those synergies all come
Mhm.
together. And again, not anything even Elliot could have planned for, but
Yeah.
that
I
came
couldn't
together in
imagine.
God's grace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that relationship, I mean, that's a beautiful relationship, that give to one another in that way, where
Yeah.
you were like, "No, I'm the lucky one. No, I'm the lucky one."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it really was funny because it is like, most days I'm like, I don't know if you love me or hate me, Mike,
Yeah,
'cause
it
he's
could
that
go one
hard
or
on
the
me.
other way.
But it's
Yeah.
because it's no different than the athletes he works with. He pushes them
Yeah.
that hard because he believes in them that much. And
Yes.
like I said, he believed I would walk even more than I did most of the time because I knew what I felt like. I knew I couldn't feel my legs. I knew I can't move my legs. And I
Mm,
learned not to say that because it's just a matter of time. And all of a sudden, oh, I did move my leg. Like I did move it. I saw it happen.
yeah.
He would, and you always have that when you have a spotter, it's like, it's all you. But Mike would do that. And then when I'm totally out of it, just not really paying it because I'm so tired, all of a sudden he would let go and my leg would do it on its own. And that's the thing. I don't know how many mind games he's doing, but it's like, that was something I didn't have to test it. Like I
Yeah.
saw it happen. I
Yeah.
felt it. I felt, oh
Wow.
man, that's heavy.
Mhm.
All of a sudden I felt what weight. I mean, people don't realize, I mean, your legs become dead weight. You're carrying
Right.
around dead weight all day long. But when I was kicking my leg and he would let go of it, all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, in my legs, I haven't felt where I really am pushing weight. Like it's
Yeah.
just been this floating, ambiguous thing. And now all of a sudden, whoa, that's what my leg weighs. I'm like, I can
Oh, wow.
feel my muscles pulling, I can feel that stretch because that muscle is actually holding the weight.
Mhm. And you weren't getting that, and physical therapy was working you on a certain level, but you never had that feeling and that sensation until you started working as intensely as you were there at
Yeah.
Michigan.
In physical therapy, we started getting twitches.
Mhm,
We got movement. If they sat me on my side, they put cotton pads down on a smooth wood table, and I
mhm.
could get those muscles to kick and fire and do things.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I'm upright, as soon as gravity's against me, all of a sudden it's gone. And it was very discouraging to say the least. But yeah, pushing myself to that level over and over. And
Yeah.
again, theoretically, it's like, how would I ever move my leg? I've just beaten myself up all day long, and it feels even less like I can feel it than before.
Yeah.
So, but what was crazy is, the nerves are so awake and so stimulated,
Yeah.
but the muscles are just, there's nothing. They've been atrophied for over a year.
Right. It's really like a year
And
and a half at this point. And I think it's important to say that one of the biggest reasons and the goals for you working with Mike at this time was for you to walk out onto the field, to lead the team out on the field on one of was it opening day?
yes, yes, it was a rumor back in 2009 when I started working out, I think, with Mike. Um, late in 2008, I started coming up once a week. I was actually doing some graduate work at
Mhm.
Ohio State, and then I believe it was in January of I'm sorry, that would have been October of 2009.
Okay.
That's when I was still doing some graduate work at Ohio State, but I'm like driving up to Ann Arbor and
Yeah.
spending Fridays, Thursdays and Fridays, and Mondays, and then going back to Columbus,
Mhm.
which I think I was the only one driving to Ann Arbor and then going back to Columbus for school
Oh,
ever.
funny. Yeah.
But
Quite a
but
commute.
anyways, I going into December, I didn't renew my finishing graduate school. I'm like, you know what? I just had started. I think I did one quarter, but
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just commit myself to the walking because I have a chance to do that right now,
Okay.
and school can wait, basically. And so I moved back home,
Mhm.
and I started working out with Mike Foley. People started, what's he doing here? Like, I mean, he wants to walk. I get it, he's working out, but
Yeah.
people are like, I think he's going to walk us out on the field. And it just started, people started talking about that. And I think somewhere after, I don't know, probably going into um, March, around this time of year, March or April,
Mhm.
um, I remember Parker said, "Hey, coach wants to see you." And I'm like, Mike? You don't call him coach. It's,
Yeah.
Mike Barwith, whatever. I call him coach, but
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
More
Head
like
coach.
coach, coach.
Yeah, the coach. It's like, oh, which I had seen him around, and he was always really super encouraging. And hey, man, you're kicking some butt today. I love to see the hard work and
Yeah.
sweat and all. I mean, he'd always be encouraging, but I don't go. I've never been to his office. I
Right.
mean, and so he helped me. I actually could take my wheelchair out there. We went over to the office and
Okay.
come on in. And the whole time I'm thinking what most people probably think, that I'm going to get kicked off the team. Like, what did I do
You're
wrong?
like, "What is waiting for
And
me behind door number 2?"
yeah,
Yeah.
and it seems so like illogical because it's like, well, I don't even have a scholarship. He can't kick me out the team.
Yeah.
But
But in your head, you're like, "I'm
yeah,
seeing the man today."
what is this about?
Yeah.
And it was so cool. He's always so happy to see me. I mean, I've seen him. He was coaching down in Arizona. When I went to see him, you could tell
Yeah.
Parker's like, "Hey, guess who's here to see you?" And he's just like, "Who?" And then he saw it was me. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, totally, he thought like, here's another reporter, here's another
Right.
guy that some guy knows that wants to meet me. And I mean, he lit up. It was just so
Oh,
awesome. But
love it.
that day he just said, yeah, I've been doing a great job. He loves the impact I have on everyone in the
Yeah.
gym and the
Yeah.
positive attitude. And he said back at the hospital, it was actually Super Bowl Sunday. I was in the hospital at Michigan,
Mhm.
which would have been pretty much, that would have been 2 years prior to this meeting.
Mhm.
And that was totally unexpected too. Super Bowl Sunday in the hospital, and he's there. But he said, he's like, I want you to lead the team out in the field. He's like, I don't think you'll need that chair, but if you want to lead us in the chair or however you want to do it, you can do it. You'll be welcome, basically.
Wow,
But
yeah.
he reminded me of that.
Okay.
And he said, I want you to lead us out for opening day this fall, which
Mhm.
was at the time, I think, like 200 days away. It was like March to September, February to
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
September 4th, the day after what would have been my dad's birthday.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and I was excited. He said, guys are talking about it. What's he doing here? Why is he here? What's he training for?
Yeah.
And he's like,
Let's
I
give
would,
him a goal. Let's give him a purpose.
yeah, like let's make it a real thing, which I
Yeah.
think people miss sometimes the power of that. Because we talk,
Yeah.
and one step of that is writing down the goal you want to have. Like, here, I want to do this.
Yeah.
That's a part of it. Part of it's telling people close to you. You might not just say, hey, everybody,
Yeah.
but you write it down. But that's what really makes it real is you put it out there,
Yeah.
say, I am going to do this. Hey, everyone, like I'm going to do this. He wanted to tell the team. He said, it's totally up to you, but I'd love to share it with the team. And I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, I'm excited. Let's make it happen. At that time, I was just starting. I was in my leg braces, just like
Okay.
Forrest Gump, and I felt like walking around like Frankenstein with a walker.
Yeah.
And I had just started getting out of those. And as soon as I took them off, I had ankle braces,
Okay.
but I mean, still very gingerly taking little half steps, shifting my body, maybe taking 10 steps and resting because
Mhm.
my arms would get tired. So much of it was on my arms,
Right.
but I'm starting to feel a little bit of that weight.
Mhm.
I'm starting. Mike had actually gotten me where I could kick my leg out. So if I'm sitting, I could just shoot that leg out. Couldn't really
Okay.
control it, but it's like just push, boom, the leg kicks out
Yeah.
straight,
Yeah.
and then I release it. But I'm just getting some of that. And when we left, and I'm super excited, and Parker's like, "You realize this is the big house? Like it's
Yeah.
110,000 people."
Yes.
And I'm like, "I forgot." Like,
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I'm like,
How many 100,000
he's
people?
like, it's not like you're gonna go out with the team and it's all fun, and then people are gonna fill the state. Like the stadium's already full,
Yeah.
and they don't have like, you know, it's not like you're gonna be somebody in the end zone kind of watching, like, oh, this is cool, I'm on the field.
It's the middle of the field.
You're walking into the middle of the field when the field is completely emptied,
Yeah.
and everyone's looking, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what have I done? you know, like what in the world have I done? And I mean, we had in the next, couple weeks, I mean, it was a huge deal with the team because he announced
Mhm.
it at a huddle. Now, a lot of you
Okay.
guys are asking, what's he doing? Like, what's this all about? And he told them. And of course, the team is just going
Right.
nuts, and
Yeah.
everyone's coming up and hitting me on the back, patting
Oh.
me on the back, and just excited. And I'm like, yeah, we're doing it. I guess
Yes.
we're doing it. But we had reporters that would ask, like, hey, that's pretty. So this is actually, yep. It's like, where are you from? Detroit News.
Mm.
Angelique Changela, she was a big sport. She still is a big sports report. We had the same birthday, which is kind
Okay.
of funny. But this is going to go in the Detroit News. Like, yep. Like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
he's gonna do this.
Everyone's gonna know.
And like I said, at that time, couldn't walk.
Mhm.
But I also, between Parker and Mike Barwis
Mhm.
and even Coach Rodriguez, like, I mean, they just, yeah, you'll walk us out. Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like, oh, that's easy, you could do that, like you can just do it.
No.
It wasn't that. It was, I've seen what you're doing. Like,
Yes.
you'll do it. Like, you're
Yeah, well,
gonna
they were
do it.
able to witness your power of will, right? As
Yeah,
well as your work ethic, which is such a big deal. Such a
yeah,
big deal.
yeah,
You don't get to where you are without digging in and going through those hard days and those moments of, is it really worth it? This
yeah.
is really hard,
hmm
you
And
know?
it did. God wrote my story. The stars aligned. I
Yeah.
tell people this all the time that I often, I get the chance to speak with people who have gone through a spinal cord injury, and I've
Mhm.
certainly realized, my story isn't everyone's story, and it certainly
Yeah.
isn't the thought. Again, going back to physical therapist, which again, probably 99% of the time she is right to say
Mhm.
you can't regain this, like, can't happen. And it's not a matter, and that's the thing that goes into all walks of life. It's not
Mhm.
always a matter of how hard you work, because you can pound your head against this wall and it's going to be
Mhm.
really hard work.
Yeah.
You're not going to gain from it. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you have God? And again, here's what I want's over here. You can work and work and work, and it's just not the passion. It's not
Right.
meant to be. Whatever it is, God doesn't want that for you. But for me, everything fell into place. The things
Mhm.
I prayed a lot of the time for opportunity. I had nothing.
Oh,
It
I
was
love
just
it.
like staring at a ceiling. And again, be careful what you wish for, because I was drowning in an opportunity. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
just the things I was able to go and do. And I would say never in my life had I focused and spent so much time and effort even when I would tell, sometimes I'd feel guilty, and Mike would say, how'd you sleep, or how long did you sleep last night? I'm like, 12 hours. He's like, that's
Okay.
great. You
Yeah.
need it.
Yes, your
So
muscles are that's helping
that's the
you.
best thing you can do for recovery. So it's
Absolutely.
not that I thought Mike's like, what, you lazy bum, get out of bed.
No,
No, get your
no.
12 hours of sleep because you're going through it. You need all the recovery and rest you
Right.
can get.
Right.
And so when I slept, it was towards walking. When I ate, it was always a lot of protein, because I
Yeah.
just, so if I had any muscles that were going to build up, I wanted protein for them
Yeah.
to use. And everything I did was all walking. And in that
Yeah.
gym for the team, they had a University of Connecticut logo. Since I was a team they were playing, and it was 180 days. And then all of a sudden I'd blink and it's 160 days. Like, what?
Yeah.
I'd blink and boom, it's 100 days. Like, we're at 99 days. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I just blinked. Like, I just, and that's the thing. Everything I did was towards that. And it seemed like
Mhm.
the clock's working again. I don't have enough time. Like, I need more time. But
Mhm.
we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and all of a sudden I was staring down 7 days till, because at that time I actually was going in on Saturdays, even because I was like, you need more time, come in on Saturday. And
Yeah.
again, we also weren't we weren't just making mush out of my legs. Like,
Mhm.
we would be stretching,
Yeah.
we'd be getting used to standing and doing
Right.
other things.
Very
He
mindful.
knew. Yeah, he knew.
Mhm.
You can't, again, you can't just keep massaging the muscle. Like,
Yeah.
it was giving rest and doing different things. Even on Saturday, it might be um, being up on my feet on a treadmill, and they would move my legs for me just so I'm
Mhm.
getting that motion and getting
Right.
used to that. But it was all for that purpose. And I think it was that very week we were just kind of, we were still trying to get it so I could just walk with one cane.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, I mean, I would just boom, take a step and move the cane,
Yeah.
take another step. And it was real. But anyways, that week before, I rolled my ankle really bad,
Oh, no.
and it was all black and blue. I'd never seen an ankle like that.
Yeah.
He's like, Parker, he's like, that looked like it hurt. And I'm like, it looked like it, but it didn't. Like, it was,
Yeah.
didn't feel it. So I'm like, hey, usually if it hurt, they're like, that's good, you can feel it. But that
Yeah.
time it was like, that's good, you can't feel it,
Yes. Now we're going to the other side, yes, of the
And
coin.
I walked like that. But what an awesome week. We did a
Mhm.
walkthrough that week, going to the stadium, and there was probably a couple hundred people around for like
Yeah.
this walkthrough. And they had and they did everything. The band went out there, boom,
Mhm.
oh, you go out here in your wheelchair, and somebody ushered me, kind of like, you go here, and introducing Brock Mueller. And I think some guy just yelled it from the field, hey,
Yeah.
introducing Brock Mueller. And they, like, video, and they're like, video end. And then I stand up, and
Yeah.
then I walk through, and I don't think they even had the real banner. I think they had a fake banner or something there.
Yeah.
And walk through, touch it. They're like, okay, field, and drum roll, and boom, run out, do the fight song.
Yeah.
And they did the whole spiel. And I was like, man, I got to move quick to do that. And
Yeah.
half the time I would do that walk, I'd get tripped up or almost fall. And
Okay.
I was like, oh man. But the
Were
day
you
of,
were you concerned about that when it came down to it?
oh yes, I was like, gosh, I fall down in front of 110,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little different, but it's not much different than somebody tripping, but except everyone's staring. It's not like this group over here sees me trip on the bleachers.
All eyes on you.
Everybody, all eyes, yes, that's
Yeah.
what you wanted. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, but
I wanna go back to a thing that you said, that you prayed for opportunity. You
yes,
didn't pray for this to be gone. You didn't pray for it to be totally different. You prayed for
yeah,
opportunity, and I think that, and then you found yourself drowning in it. I
yeah,
think that's, my husband will sometimes say, like, we're with our kids when they were little and learning something, like, "Hey, can you help me do this?" And he's like, "I'm gonna teach a man to fish," right? Teach a
yeah,
man to fish.
yeah.
Like, looking for that opportunity, and then when it's there, it's like, "Oh, wow, okay.
And
Yeah, yeah,
I
I can
always
do it."
pray that, um, that for people that know and love God, they'll use it for uh, everything will be used for a purpose.
Yeah.
And in my case, that's something I prayed for specifically, was if, well, again, and not to test God, but just, I mean, if you can turn this into something positive, if you can
Mhm.
turn this absolute terrible tragedy that no good can come from whatsoever, if you can make some good from it,
Yeah.
that will reinforce my faith. And Mike always said that we're going to leave. He's like, I'm no, I'm not Jesus. I'm not this healer, but
Mhm.
I do feel Jesus inside. We're going to do all this work and say, God, here we are. Like,
Yeah.
if it's your will, heal him. You do the rest. We're going to give it our all.
Yes.
And we're not going to sit back and say, just, hey, heal me, like make this go away or any of
Yeah.
that. Like, we're going to work and work and say, we believe. This is how much we believe. Like, we'll put
Yeah. Oh, I
all the
love
chips
that.
in because we believe just so much. And I prayed specifically to make this good. And that, I mean, to go back to the question about looking towards the future and taking that path,
Mhm.
it was symbolic, but my goal that I set, touching that banner was really what opened my eyes and really said, I look back on that in hindsight and all that work and everything, which walking out was about the easiest thing I've ever done because I I couldn't fool myself. Did I, phone it in someday? No, I gave
Yeah.
it everything, and it was easy in the moment, like being in the
Yeah.
zone as an athlete that you
Yeah.
practiced, you watched tape, you did all, and boom, it all happened so easy.
Mhm.
And I look back on hindsight and think, even with all the hard work, how little I had to do with the plan and everything rolling out and all the things God put into place to make it happen. And it just gave me this like peace unlike anything I'd felt
Mm.
because
Beautiful.
having my dad and Hollis smile down saying, Do you not
Yeah.
know? Do you not know that these things are all these coincidences, all those times where you prayed, like, God, where are you? That you look
Yeah.
back and say, Oh, he was right there. He was right here.
Yeah.
How did you get through those rough nights? I was carried through it. I don't, I couldn't have gone. People tell me all that I couldn't have got through. It's like, well, I couldn't either, but
Yeah.
I did. So
Yeah.
what is that?
What's that piece? Yeah. What's that piece?
And I look back and you see it in hindsight, and I do feel like now I feel like I see it sooner. I might see it in the
Yeah.
moment even as those things happen, but back then it was like I had to look back on almost 3 years of my life at the time and 2.5 years, say like, wow, these things, they all pieced together. They were all laid out.
Mm. Mhm.
Every time I was stepping onto the water and thought, oh, I can't walk on, and it just boom. I remember a moment when I first saw myself in the mirrors of the gym,
Mhm.
and I was holding two canes, but I had black pants on, and the canes blended in with my pants. I had these Adidas, black like
Yeah.
workout pants, and I looked in the mirror and I saw myself, and I'm like, holy cow! Like, I'm just standing there, and I remember I almost fell because Parker grabbed me because I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do that because I didn't even remember the canes. I was
Oh,
just looking at
wow.
myself standing, and it was like walking on water, and like, wait a minute, I'm walking on water, but I can't walk on water, and and
Yeah.
then I just had to laugh because I'm like, well, you are like you interrupt,
Yeah.
don't interrupt don't interrupt the person doing something and say they can't do it while they're doing it. They're in the act of doing it, and
Yeah. Great
I
points.
would do that to myself,
Mhm.
but yeah, walking that moment, looking back from that banner, I just thought, I took this road less traveled, hopefully
Mhm.
make it more traversable for people in the future, which I think
Yeah.
Barwis absolutely has. And I always say that I don't know if you love them more or love me more because he's a lot easier with people and they've learned so much and he's helped so many people.
Mhm.
I mean, it's probably up into the thousands now, or at least people impacted, but
Yeah.
hundreds of people that he's helped get through some type of paralysis or some type of disability
Amazing.
and get to their 100% because their
Right.
100% isn't necessarily mine.
Yeah.
There's been others too that have progressed beyond me, and I see one of my friends I met through all this that always has pictures standing with his family, and I have to
Mhm.
take a second glance because he's standing with his family, and I met him in a wheelchair,
That's amazing.
and I just think much like Mike, if I can help someone and they go beyond
Mhm.
where I went, it makes me even happier
Yeah.
to see someone that goes
Mm.
beyond the level that Mike and I started.
Mhm.
And again, totally different situations, but he's got he's got some kids and to see him smiling with his family and just standing there. And he still walks with a cane and things like
Right.
he's doing amazing. I mean, to see him get back to life because it certainly isn't your life to I mean, for some people it is being an athlete, being in the gym.
Yeah.
It's not your life to just constantly struggle and try to walk again. It's to reach your 100%, to reach your full
Yes.
potential and not regret the things that you're competent at, the talents you have. Mike always told me he's using God's talents
Mhm.
to help me, and that I should use my talents to help people after he's helped me. But
Yeah.
again, he always claims that he did a big TEDx speech about being a catalyst in people's lives, and I thought he's going to say how he was a catalyst in my life and taught me another lesson in humility.
Yeah.
His story was all about how I was a catalyst to make his life better,
Oh, I love
not
that.
about him helping me walk and changing my entire life.
Right.
It was about me helping him find purpose beyond
Mm.
helping someone get a trophy. It was about helping
Mm.
change
Yeah.
people's lives that are in their lowest point and getting them out of it. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's that's
And
pretty awesome.
effectively, you were actually a portion of him finding his 100%.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. How
Yeah.
tell me how healing that was for your family when you walked that field, because it wasn't just you walking, it
Yeah.
was your mom and it was your 2 brothers.
Yeah, that was a moment that, truth be told, we had it in our mind. You'll walk one day, and we wanted to believe that, but
Yeah.
it was harder and harder to see it in the past looking forward. Mike
Mhm.
painted that picture for me constantly. I think certainly for Elliot, but also for Blake. I think his wife Molly did all my care pages and kept progress, which
Okay.
is something that I'm eternally grateful for, because I look back on those times when I don't remember a lot of it because of
Yeah.
how grueling it was for me. But I look back at that and say, "Holy cow! I can't believe that was me going through all
Mhm.
these things."
Mhm.
But for them, again, going hand in hand with me, going through this terrible tragedy again. That the walking on the field was this symbolic healing process of having something we seemingly couldn't change. We're told we can't change,
Mhm.
my injury. It
Mhm.
just 1%. They'll just throw that out there. That
Yep.
would be if you have all the support in the world, which I did,
Right.
1 out of 100 chance is something that I was somewhat bitter about hearing, but now
Yeah.
embrace fully that that's all God needs. I may need more than that to be
Oh, I
confident,
love
but
it.
that's all that God needs, is that
That's
1%.
yes. Yes.
That's all he needs. And
Uh-huh.
um, in anyways, for me, I felt like I was I had tunnel vision, and I felt like I was
Mm.
underwater. I couldn't
Mhm.
hear the crowd, but as soon as I made contact with that banner, I just knew. And I think that's something that was very healing for all of us on that field, is to say at that very moment, like that was our moment to say that thing that couldn't be changed about the accident, it was changed. And
Oh, yeah.
while there's other things we couldn't change, this was something that, to me, God revealed that, like, I'm here.
Mhm.
I've never gone away from you. And
Mhm.
for all of these things to come together and to see this come to fruition, like, it's going to be okay. Like,
Yeah.
life will go on. And really truly in my heart, as I felt my dad and Hollis smiling down, I mean, I just felt that, like I said, it was this
Yeah.
peace that I felt since then, but I don't think I'd ever felt anything close to it
Yeah.
prior to this. And it was like, you'll see them again, like,
Yeah.
to wipe every tear and feel real joy. If I experience what's an amazing joy, and I do feel like that's something I never take for granted, that I feel so many moments where I even cry tears of joy, and I feel such gratitude because
Yeah.
I, I remember a speech that I heard, and now I'm drawing a blank, but he said that, you should laugh every day, you should cry every day.
Yeah.
And I am like, man, it's so powerful to even to cry, not that you want to, but again, it's usually tears of joy that I've had
Right.
lately, but to experience those emotions is really
Right.
a great privilege.
Oh, I love that too. Yeah.
Coach
It
Jimmy
is.
V, it was Coach Jimmy V saying that, and I've experienced that more and more in my life as I've embraced those things, and
Right.
embraced the things Mike told me. Just help the next person, and I'm like, Mike, how am I going to help the next person? I'm struggling here, and
Mhm.
I've realized that if you're down or out, helping someone is usually, just like in Mike's case, he wasn't down or out, but helping someone's usually that big uplifter for you. So if you're
Yeah.
getting stressed out, you're getting dragged down, you feel like you're beat up and discouraged, instead of trying to help yourself and just doing that constantly and it's not working, you go out and help somebody else that maybe they're not as well off as you, or maybe
Right.
they're struggling. Maybe
Mhm.
they're not even struggling as much as you are, but you go help that person because
Mhm.
you've got an easy talent. Says, hey, you know what? I'm able to do that. I have the resource to do it. Let me help you and make your life easier. Then all of a sudden, your whole attitude turns around,
Yes. I've
and
seen it firsthand. Absolutely.
and I think our family has felt that through
Yeah.
people that they've connected with, and even people that come to them and say, "I am so sorry for what you went through," and they share something from their own life, their big
Right.
tragedy or struggle, and and you realize you're not alone, and you
Mhm.
realize that we found purpose in life, and and just that we can find joy even through the most terrible tragedies.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think has been eh, along the way, what has been probably the biggest challenge for you since the accident to even say to this point? Has it been pieces of those internal questions? Has it been the physicality of it? Has it been doubt? Has it been the actual physical work and the training? Has it been the grieving process for going through the loss?
I would say a big part of it is the grieving and understanding um, how that works, because there is a obviously time and a place for sadness and grieving. I mean, no one,
Mhm.
I mean, can go through something like that without it. Um, but it does seem at times that it's these random ways that will hit you, and you
Mm,
think you're good, you think you're great, life's going good,
yeah.
and for no particular reason, or maybe it is something. There are times I think in life that, and I've talked about this in the past on one of the Big Ten Network video, where I have something good happen, and I'll reach for my phone and like call my dad and say, I want to tell you about this. I have a lot of times I'll visit the cemetery and just kind of talk to myself about life and what's happening, and
Yeah.
I do feel like I find some clarity in that. But I think that um, the grieving, but I think it's just those same emotions coming back to hit you to say how I felt. And part of it
Mhm.
is the physical pain side, and part
Mhm.
of it, I would say the bigger piece of it is that pain of loss and saying,
Yeah.
this did happen. This was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Uh, and that I think has been, again, that crashing wave that keeps hitting you, and figuring out ways to, again, I think the challenge is I want to not have that happen because I don't like it, but I also
Yeah.
don't want to um, have it like in one of these movies where, hey, can you just wipe my mind so I don't ever think about it again?
Right.
Delete all the photos, and I don't
Right.
want that. I don't want to not remember my dad or not think
Right.
about my dad. Um, but I will say, more often than not, even talking to my brothers, we are smiling, we're laughing, and at times there's tears.
Mhm.
Um, while we're laughing, because there is some sadness tied to it. But I
Yeah.
think those two extremes make it even a more powerful emotion, and always goes back to the gratitude of what we did have, the time we had with our dad, the way that he raised us. And it's always a constant reminder too that uh hey, I should call mom. Should talk, I
Yeah.
see my mom
Uh-huh.
uh a lot. I talk to her every day on the phone,
Mhm.
but it makes that reminder to say, we have a just an amazing stepdad. Why wouldn't you have gratitude for that,
Yeah.
and cherish the people that you do have here and go out of your way? That's one of the big things I think that has helped me in dealing with that grieving and sadness, is to go out of my
Mhm.
way. And um, I had a great childhood friend that I probably hadn't seen since eighth grade. At that time, I'm 23, and I hadn't seen him since I was 15, hadn't seen him maybe in 7 or 8 years. And he and his sister and his mom came to visit me at Toledo, and I hadn't seen him in that long of a time. And it just, I don't know, it was a very, very powerful thing to
Yeah.
just see them and take my mind off that situation I was in.
Right.
And it's just
Right.
been this powerful reminder to me that, again, looking at that door, looking at the person we lost and that picture we lost,
Yeah.
you miss out on these other incredible people and moments that you could be experiencing, and be connecting, and
Yeah.
being hopefully encouraging and helpful and all these things. And I've been blessed to have that with even strangers that I
Mm.
pass by and talk to. And at times again, I don't think, God has given me this burden or that he's
Mhm.
uh, tried to make it this challenging thing, but I think he's definitely used it to have me grow and in spirit
Absolutely.
and in life. And again, people um, would not even know I had a story if I just walked around as normal. I still walk with two canes,
Yeah.
um, but I am really happy about that. There's times where I really miss playing basketball. I love playing basketball. I love playing ice hockey. If
Okay.
anything, do that again. There's ways to do that. I tried playing wheelchair basketball, and it was the most grueling. It's actually more like football than
Oh
basketball,
god, I can
and
imagine.
so it's amazing. But I have moments like that, but I'm so happy with what I have been given. And the
Yeah.
times that I'm sweating in the airport, walking around, I have to remind myself that there's thousands of people that would give anything for just a minute of sweating and tired,
Yes.
standing on your own 2 feet. And I embrace that, and I embrace having people notice that there's
Mhm.
some story that guy has there. And if
Yeah.
I just walked around, they wouldn't know that story. But that's been my way of connecting. I'm not a very you know, social person of, hey, you don't know me. How about we chat at the airport or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
But other people will come to me and they'll chat with me, and I
Yeah.
just say, hey, oh, don't want to offend you. You look like you have a story. And it's like,
Wow.
God gave me that story. Like,
Mm.
it's not mine to, hey, none of your business, pal.
Mhm.
God gave me that story. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of those things Mike was talking about, is share that gift.
Mhm. For
I'm like,
sure.
this is
For
a
sure.
powerful gift. And I do have people that run up and open doors for me. I always feel funny because I'll have women run in front of me and open the door. Like I should open the door, like you know, mom taught me to be chivalrous, and open.
Right.
And
Yes.
they open the door for me, but I always do. I never take offense to that. I'm like,
Yeah.
people being kind and people being thoughtful. And
Yeah.
again, sure, they may underestimate that. Yeah, I can open the door and I can
Yeah.
carry my own bag. I mean,
Yeah.
usually I'm carrying this huge backpack, and people are like, "Why would you put this huge backpack on and trudge through the airport?" But
Because I
people want to,
can.
yeah, because I can.
I can. Yeah.
But when somebody says, "Hey, you want help with that?" You say, "You know what? Yes." And
Yeah.
what I've realized, it is kind of like with Mike, because I've realized by
Helping
accepting
them.
that help,
Yeah.
yeah, they feel good about it. They did a
Right.
good deed. Why not? Why rob them of that
Right.
joy of that? Like, that
Right.
doesn't take anything
Absolutely.
away from what I can do. And most of the time, when people get my full story, and sometimes my brother or a friend might say, they might tell the person he's being modest. He's
They
done this.
Okay.
And they're
Okay.
blown away, and
Yeah.
that's great and wonderful too. But and that's been a challenge for me too, is kind of embracing that role. And again,
Mhm.
um, not to toot my own horn, but again, look at the story that God has put together for me,
Mhm.
and the trials he's put me through, the things he's helped me get through. And why wouldn't I share it? Like, to
Yeah.
say, walking in front of that huge crowd, which at the time was the largest college football crowd ever.
Ever.
And
Yeah.
it since then has been beaten, but by a few thousand. I mean, it's still in,
Not by
I think, the
much.
top 10 and
Mhm.
top 20.
Mhm.
Um, but in any case, like, why wouldn't I shout that from the mountaintop?
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
And again, more than anyone, I realize, even with all the hard work, I realize how little I had to do with all that planning and went
Yeah.
together. It's just, I tried to be as faithful as I could be and go with it and put in
Yeah.
the work, and God made it happen. So I try to just share that any chance I get.
Well, your story and those emotions, I think you said it earlier, like those feelings are a privilege that we get to have and that we get to experience. And I think in
Yeah,
our dark points, it's hard for us to see the forest for the trees, to see that. But when we, like you said, pray for those opportunities and we are given those gifts to then make a choice,
yeah,
then we have so many other things that are so much value that can feed our souls and the souls of those around us as well. And I also want to say too, I like you were talking about walking through the airport and sweating and people looking at you like, why are you doing that? Why are what is that? But there are people that would give anything for your hard day.
yeah,
There are people that would give anything to be in that place. That would your hard day, they would give their
absolutely.
life for. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's perspective and I'm just it's so refreshingly I'm so grateful that you shared so vulnerably and so openly about your process and about how it's shifted you and how you've grown and you've moved through it.
Yeah.
It's a valuable piece. It's valuable words, and it's something that I think many people struggle with, but a lot of times they don't get to that other side. They make that the crossroads, they turn a different direction because of frustration, because of their injury, or because of their trauma, or because of the tragedy they went through. And
Hmm.
the outcome could be so much different. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate being given the opportunity, and like I said, hopefully, many people get encouragement from our story,
Yeah.
and that's always our hope, is that people don't have to go through that, but hopefully they can gain the perspective and gain the encouragement of knowing that you can get through whatever it is that's thrown at you, and
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's not going to be hard. It doesn't mean you have to enjoy every single moment of it, but
Right.
the outcome can really be more than what you could ever imagine. And
Yeah.
it has been for us. It's been beyond my wildest dreams after the tragedy that struck us, to see where our lives are now and what we've been able to do
Yeah.
with this story.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will so look forward to your book coming out. I absolutely can't wait. It's going to be amazing. It's
Yeah, it's
so
going to
so
be
so great.
finally happening this summer, and I'm
Yeah.
just thrilled to share that, a different format, and
Mhm.
also a different format in terms of not just a biography, but hopefully something that people uh, use some of the tools in there to self-reflect and
Yeah.
apply those things to their life. Not memorize anything about me other than the lessons learned, but apply that, because I know people do relate on so many levels to who their Mike Barwis is in their life, or
Yeah.
how can they be Mike Barwis for somebody else, or how can they be the rock that my mom was for the family. So when life does throw you just something so terrible and harsh, how can you be prepared for that, to be that person in your family that holds things together, that brother that is always there for his brother, or the brother that is encouraging his brother to reach his potential, and I
Mhm.
was blessed with that, with my older brother being the support system I needed, and
Right.
even his wife Molly being the support system, and the person that encouraged me along the way, and then having a younger brother who was blessed with this opportunity to play the game of football,
Yeah.
and not even knowing that his choice would have profound impact on my recovery, and
Mhm.
again, not just the physical recovery, but that emotional and spiritual
Mhm.
recovery, to embrace life and embrace confidence again, and
Yeah.
just reach that full potential.
Finding your 100%.
Yes, yes,
Oh, I love that.
100% out of 1%.
That is a mic drop moment. That um, I watched before I talked to, Elliot last week, I watched it's the ESPN, special, it's E60 Miracle, and you
Yeah,
can find that on YouTube. That gives a little bit more of the Mueller's background. It goes into a little bit more depth of what you went through, and I mean, it actually shows some of your workouts, which, by the way, are yeah, it's hard stuff.
brutal. Yes,
Brutal, hard stuff,
yes,
for sure, for sure. But all of that being said, it's just, again, it's just a testament to your faith, to your tenacity, and all of that combined together, right? To get those pieces of the puzzle to come together the way they did so brilliantly, because you were given those pieces, those opportunities, and then you had to find a way to make it work, and you did. You did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely blessed. We are blessed.
Yes, absolutely. Tell me about, you were talking that you enjoy walking on the beach now. You like, what's your most fun physical thing that you get to do now?
Yeah, I would say oh, the walks on the beach are pretty nice.
Yeah.
They are a challenge. The biggest challenge really is when the tip of my cane comes off, and I'm like, where did
It's
that go? That's
it's
not
stuck
good.
somewhere.
But I laugh. There's time. I mean, I have plenty of times in my own life where I get frustrations of things that
Yeah.
happen, and but most of the time I am kind of chuckling at those different frustrations, because again, people see that, and it's like, who walks on the beach with canes, like, you put
Yeah.
yourself, it's like, I get to
You get
it
to.
really
Yeah.
is like, choose your heart. I mean, being
Yeah.
in a wheelchair is not an easy thing, and when I got out of it, I mean, not it wasn't that, obviously the process was hard to walk again,
Mhm.
but the process of relearning life now that I don't sit in the chair. I just gotten used to that.
Yeah.
That's difficult because now I can't carry things, and I have
Yeah.
to figure out how am I going to get my laptop from the truck to the office, because I used to just throw it on my lap and
Yeah.
wheel myself in. Now I got to figure out a different way. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, the beach is up there. One of the cool things I did in one of our vacations to Costa Rica, we went on an off-road tour with Elliot, one of his teammates, and then one of his other friends.
Okay.
Um, but we had a chance to go see a waterfall, and he said it's just a 10-minute little hike up
Yeah.
this muddy hill. And after about 10, I walked up the hill, and it's muddy and slippery, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of work. And after 10 minutes, I said, "Are we almost there?" He's like, "Just 10 more minutes, and walk again." We go another, so now we're 20 minutes in, and I'm
Okay.
looking, where is this
Where
water? Like, where is it?
Uh-huh.
Like, just another 10. I think there was some sort of a translation issue there.
Okay.
And I can
Okay.
speak a little bit of Spanish, but I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And again, part of it is
Mhm.
because I'm not hiking up. I'm taking my
Mhm.
time each step, but we
Mhm.
ended up probably 40 minutes up this mountain, and there's a beautiful waterfall, probably 20
Oh.
feet high, coming down just in the middle of the jungle, um, and beautiful. But if he had told me, like, if he knew the distance, and he's like, it's 1 kilometer, which 1 kilometer, even that, I mean, that's still a pretty good distance for me.
Yeah.
But also, you have to walk up a 45-degree mountain.
Muddy.
I'd
A
probably
muddy one.
say, yeah, it's muddy. My canes are slipping. Ellie's trying to hold me, but it's only wide enough for one of us big boy,
Oh,
guys. So,
yeah.
um, but if you had told me, hey, you're just gonna have to hike up 40 minutes up this hill without a break, then I probably would have said, yeah, I'm good.
I'm good. I'll
But
pass.
because it was 10 minutes, and that's what Mike would do with me, just 10 minutes, you know what? Just 10 reps. No, just 20 reps, just 30.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got up there. It was awesome. And we hung out there for, 40 minutes. And I actually got down. They had pools of water. I get down there with my brother and got a great
Love
picture. And anyways, but that's the thing. I did love the moment until I realized I had to walk back now.
it. You got
LA, just let me piggyback ride me. But I'm like, that wasn't going to happen. But we hiked back. But I mean,
Yeah.
that was great. It really is doing things that I shouldn't, I guess, be able to do, is
Shouldn't.
just
Yes.
remarkable. But I have loved. I did, as I said, play wheelchair basketball, and it was such a workout. But I loved it because I was able to not think about the
Mhm.
workout or that. I'm having fun. Um, Golfing's one. I'm like anyone else. It's like, oh, I golfed twice last year. I live on a golf course, and I
Okay.
I don't get to, but I do love it because, again, something I shouldn't be able to do, but I stand up, I golf with one arm,
Okay.
and I'm probably better than I've ever been.
Okay.
Sadly or happily, I don't know which. Fortunately, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but decent enough at it. But I enjoy it because all I'm thinking about is trying to hit this little ball instead of having to stand. Even though I get
Yes.
tired, I'll get sweaty or whatever, but I'm just trying to hit the little ball. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
your
I'm
focus
not
is
like
different.
I
Yeah.
have to stand up. Oh, arch your back better, and
Yeah.
and the other thing about it is I am now grateful, because I hated, Mike would never let me get away with anything. If I had to do 10-yard walk, and for
Uh-huh.
one of those steps, I hiked my hip up and did this kind of thing, it wouldn't count. It's like, you know what, get back on the line,
Oh my god.
start over, not just
Oh.
do it, not back up one step. It's go back to the line. And it
Mhm.
got really hard when I would walk 100 yards and I'd screw up, because because I'd be out at the 50-yard line,
Yeah.
start over. It's like, well, I can't. I'm at the 50. Well, you have to walk back to the
Go
goal
back and start
line
over.
and then walk
Gosh.
100 yards straight. And I did do that once, and I did love it. It was great to be on a football field instead of in a hospital, just
Yes.
better atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I walked with two canes 100 yards, and it was probably after like 40 attempts
Mhm.
on a given day. This is on we're doing 100 yards today, and I mean, I failed and failed 40 attempts. I finally get there, and I learned to fall really well, but I
Yeah.
dove over the line, touchdown. He's like, the goal wasn't to score a touchdown. The goal was to walk 100 yards, and you fell at 99 yards. Start over. And
Oh,
I think it took me another 15 or 20. I didn't just walk back. Like, I couldn't make it. I
yeah.
couldn't do 100. I just made it and collapsed. And nope, you walked 99 and you fell one, so
Yeah.
it was that tough. But anyways, it's given me so much more doing all that and doing it that particularly. I
Mhm.
don't have to think. I used to have to think about every little step, like,
Right.
relax. which
Right.
way do I move my arms? Like this arm moves and this one's, and I
Yeah.
have to think of, and now I don't have to think. Every now and then I get a little reminder, a slip up where I'm like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to keep that hip forward. I'm not
Yeah.
doing, um, but I still love just doing some sports I can do, the walks on the beach. I've climbed,
Mhm.
um, in that same token with vacation, I've been able to, climb into boats
Yeah.
and just do what it took to do it. I mean, always have people willing to help. And one of my favorite things, as I said, giving speeches
Mhm.
is
Right.
I'm always pushing myself to be able to stand and speak
Right.
because I have that ability. And again, um, I'm always like, I'm not nervous, just sweating a little bit.
Just
Don't
I'm
worry.
working really hard here.
Yeah, but I think it does. I think it
Yes.
sends a much stronger message, like to
Oh,
see
for
that.
sure.
And one of my, I mean, the first couple years that I was standing and speaking, I did stand. I was done speaking, but I was standing off the side, and I remember someone asked me if I wanted a chair, and I'm like, oh, Mike wouldn't want me taking some chair. I can stand. I'm fine.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
like 5 minutes after they asked me, I just went over in front of. I was on a basketball court in a middle school, and everybody
Okay.
just. I just went over like a tree onto the
Oh, no.
and the teacher's like, no, it's good. They know now they realize it's really how challenging that is. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, it's still not fun though.
You're not I don't wanna be
And I
called
actually
out
had
in
to
front of a bunch
speak
of people.
to, yeah, I had to speak to a lot of the middle schoolers again, but the parents, and they had a community night that
Mhm.
night. And I'm like, I'm sure all your kids told you about the great performance earlier, but I'm not going to reenact that.
I'm not going back
They
down that road
kind of
again.
laughed. Yeah, I'm not going to do that one. That was just for the middle schoolers to see.
Right. I love
But
it.
I do. I just get these great opportunities and try to just find joy in it, even in the
Yeah.
failures. And yeah, so
I think it's
pretty
wonderful.
blessed.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100% blessed.
Yeah.
100% blessed. Finding your 100%.
Yeah.
Remarkable, remarkable story. Excited for the book. But hey, before I let you go today,
Yes.
are you cool with doing some fun rapid fire questions? I always like to
Yeah.
end so
Let's do it. This has
okay.
been great. It's
I
gone
feel like
fast.
I feel like we know a lot about your personality, but I
Yeah.
like it's always fun to know a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. First question. What's your favorite breakfast?
Favorite breakfast would be pretty standard: pancakes, bacon, and eggs. I mean,
Okay.
that's my go-to, and it's kind of a yeah. Um, that's a special breakfast. So
There you go. Here,
yeah,
I don't pass up a good pancake.
any breakfast really is my favorite. But yeah, I do love that.
I've heard that. Yes.
Grand slam.
Yeah. Number 2. What is one of your nicknames?
Nicknames. That's a good one. Oh, I've had quite a few
Okay.
over the years. The nickname my grandma gave me is Brocky. So
Rocky. Oh.
Blake made, I don't think it's too masculine, but my brother made me a shirt that said "Win Brocky Win," like from Rocky. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool, but
I'm
uh,
sorry. I'm laughing about that.
no, I love it. It's pretty endearing and everything, but that's one of them. But I like to think of it as
Yeah.
the Rocky theme. But back in high school, they always called me Hollywood because I wore sunglasses.
Oh,
But
look at you.
Elliot's Hollywood. He's in West Hollywood.
He's in
So
Hollywood.
yeah,
Praise that. That's so funny. All right. Question number 3. Do you currently have a bucket list? And if so, would you be willing to tell us what one of those items were?
I do not have a bucket list,
Okay.
but I will say I have thought about it. But I always laugh because if somebody asks me about a bucket list, I'm like, I wouldn't even put half the things I've experienced on the bucket list
Yeah.
because they would have been too crazy and outlandish
Okay.
that they're never going to happen. I mean, um, I would say that. I mean, one thing I would put if I had a bucket list is with the First Step Foundation that Mike started, and it
Yeah.
really was to give people the opportunity that I had to work with world class athletes, to have the best equipment, to have the best
Yes.
coaches, and the best physical therapists in the world.
Yeah.
Um, he we help pay for those treatments, and they now Mike's in Florida, but he gets to work out with uh, a lot of UFC fighters down there, a lot of
Okay.
NFL people, and baseball, a lot of hockey
Mhm.
players too. I mean, he's across the board,
Mhm.
but we probably have I believe over 40 people actively in this program, from anything from spinal cord injury to MS to
Yeah.
CP to stroke patients
Yeah.
that come out there, and it's really incredible. But part of my bucket list is to devote much more of my time, if not my primary time, to that cause, whether
Great.
it's through speaking
Mhm.
or whether it's through going through workouts again with them.
Mhm.
When I went down to Florida, it was funny because one of the clients I met, she had said, "Well, why don't you go through this workout with me?"
Oh,
And the trainer said, "Hey, this is the guy here. Like, he's gone through workouts a
with
thousand times that you're
yeah.
doing right now. Like, he's already."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're the guy on the news article out front, all the
Yeah.
newspaper." And I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's me,
That's me.
And I did go through workouts with him just because I do enjoy the experience of, and
Sure.
again, I know how much I loved it when I had someone, again, not the exact same situation, but they
Mhm.
worked out alongside me. And so that is one I would have on my bucket list. But I
That's
will
a
say
great
the
one.
reason I don't is because I got to meet Winter the dolphin from Dolphin Tale. That
Yes.
wouldn't even been on my bucket. That's crazy. I got to
I
get
love
in
it.
the pool with her,
Oh
and
my
she has an
goodness.
amazing story. She
Oh,
passed away a couple years ago. I was just
right.
distraught. But I
Right.
also met Hope from Dolphin Tale 2.
Yeah.
That's a real dolphin. I met her when they just got her. I think she was a couple months old when they found her,
Oh, I
and
love it.
I've gotten to stand for the national anthem at a
Mhm.
NASCAR race with the
Mm.
NASCARs, and then they start their engines, and I'm like, okay, I'm going back over the pit wall,
And now I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got to meet the Red Wings, who are a bunch of my heroes growing up. I love watching the Detroit Red Wings. I got to talk to him. I got to go to a game and meet Henrik Zetterberg. Actually gave me a jersey. Keep up the great
Okay.
work. I mean, just outlandish, crazy things.
Yeah.
I had Mike tell Robbie Ruthless Lawler, which you don't even have to know. He's a UFC fighter, but you don't even have to know him to know he's ruthless. And
Okay.
Mike told him that I am the toughest guy he has ever trained, and Robbie kind of eyed me up and down, like, really, like, you think he's the
Okay.
toughest? Okay, because he's trained him, like,
Yes. Yes. He's a
and
UFC fighter. He's a big deal.
super super nice guy. It's so funny because hockey players, and I found even UFC fighters, like, the nicest people. You think like
Yeah.
some other like golfers maybe are there, but I've in my experience, like hockey and UFC fighter, the ones
Yep.
you think would be the meanest.
Yep.
Um, but just experiences like that I just sit back and say, okay, God, just wherever you're going to take me.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's a long answer to the rapid fire, but it's like I don't even put the bucket. Maybe I should do a bucket list, but I'm like, my bucket list would be completely outlandish because I can't. I don't even know if I have a good enough imagination to go above and beyond the
What's
things God's
happened?
thrown at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I it's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, just sidebar here. My rapid fire questions are never rapid fire with anybody because we
yes.
always talk. So I should come
I
up with a
love them. They're
different term.
deep. No, they're deep. I like
They're
it.
deep rapid fire questions, right? Yeah. Yeah. For sure. But I think it's interesting that like that I put that down there because now as I listen to you talk, I'm like, your whole life really
Yeah.
is bucket list.
Yeah, the banner, I feel like walking out on that field, part of me thought this is the finish line, like, hey,
Mhm.
and really that was the start line. It's like, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
And I went down, well, speaking of my actual, goal of working with First Step Foundation, I did a, $5,000 goal for one of our fundraisers
Mhm.
back in 2018. And I was able to go down and I just decided, I'm like, you know what, I want to walk a mile. And Dr. Nick, who is another guy that I worked with through Mike, he said, I want to walk with you then,
Okay.
because he was the head guy for Mike, and actually now he's the head guy Mike has working with the Red Wings now. But
Yeah.
he's like, I want to walk with you if that's all right. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, you walk with me. But I'm like, hey, I want to walk without my canes though. He's like, even better. Like, that's
Okay.
even
Let's do
better.
it.
Okay. And anyways, I ended up swimming for like the next 3 months like crazy because I knew I could walk it. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
having the being
The
in shape
endurance.
enough, and
Mhm.
yeah, the endurance. And so I didn't even really. I mean, I walked around with my cane, but I didn't walk without canes up until that point. I just swam all the time.
Okay.
And anyways, I went down there to walk this mile, and I took like 2 or 3 steps and fell down. And
Oh, no.
he's like, Nick's like, you gonna be all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm just
How
warming
are we
up
gonna
here.
get through this?
I walked an entire half mile with him walking backwards. So he walked it backwards, but
Okay.
but I walked the whole half mile around without stopping after that fall.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I tell people. I've fallen so many times, like I just gotten good at failure. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's also safer to know how to do it. Mike told me that a long time ago. But
Yes.
I probably fell a dozen times the second half of the mile, but I finished. But the real beauty of it was we probably had 6 or 7 people that went that they start. I started with the 5K,
Hmm.
but they started at the 1 mile. But then they caught up with me towards the end in their wheelchairs. They're rolling.
Yeah.
But that last 10 yards, I got to pass out past the finish line and sit there on the grass at the spring training facility for the Mets. The finish line was home plate in their field,
Oh.
and I got to watch that last 10 yards where person after person would stand up out of their chair and just walk that 10 yards across the finish line.
Oh.
And in that, I was sweating out of my eyes so bad that
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, like these people are getting this opportunity
Yeah.
that we wouldn't have had if Mike didn't take the chance on me, or if I hadn't taken a chance on Mike and
Yeah.
went through this crazy program. And that to me, that's that real bucket. Like, this is what I have to do and my purpose I need to complete
Yeah.
while I'm here.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Gosh, that's so great. That's perfect. It just shows the connectability and the relatability and how we are all so intertwined and how what one person does affects a multitude of people's lives.
Hmm.
There's never any accidents in that capacity ever.
Yeah, and even in my case, it really was. I want to walk again, and it seemingly is a selfish endeavor. I want to walk. I want to get back what I lost.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna walk again, and but to start that from a foundation of faith, I didn't plan on, hey, maybe this other person will be helped, or I didn't plan any of that.
Right.
It came along because all these things aligned, I think, and because Mike was on that same page with God's gonna lead us. We'll
Yeah.
let Him lead the way, and we're just gonna do what we think we know best to do,
Yeah.
and to see that come to fruition with all the people that day, just incredible and just
Yeah.
purposeful, and just to me, it's more powerful than any other form of compensation you could
Mhm.
receive from
Absolutely.
doing a job or any of that. It's just amazing,
Yeah.
really, just amazing.
Well, you are absolutely living a purposeful life. And it's wonderful to watch it, wonderful to see it, and especially wonderful to hear it specifically point blank from you and your experience. So thank you once again for sharing so beautifully and so intimately the everything that you went through and how, again, I'm just going to reiterate how you got to the point, the perspective shift
Yeah,
of making the choice, because that's where that faith, where the rubber meets the road.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, man, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of the week, even rest of the month. Do you have any big plans, vacation plans coming up? Anything fun on your agenda?
Going back to Costa Rica
Oh,
again, so I'm yeah, that's a an annual endeavor, if not
yeah.
twice a year.
Oh, fun.
Try to do that. It's my refresher, battery recharger, and everything,
Yes.
and so very very excited to get to do that. Just beautiful down there, great people and
Yeah.
great experiences, and I will say I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come on, and hope the listeners are just inspired and motivated and encouraged by what's possible, and
Yeah.
believing that again, not everyone has that same purpose that I do, but it's there. And
Yeah.
Mike, I'll leave you with that. I thought just such a great thing. Mike didn't tell me that, hey, go do this XYZ, and I think he knew that even if he did know the impact I could have on people with my story, he had to let me discover that for myself. So there really
Yeah.
isn't necessarily that person that can tell you that. It's something you have to discover and
Mhm.
and hold on to and embrace, because speaking in front of people was not my forte. It wasn't something I was excited about,
Yeah.
but it was this gift that I feel like God made very clear, and that's something. It wasn't ever easy, but He did make things very clear that this is the path. I knew which path I was supposed to go on, and a lot of times that path doesn't look very pleasant necessarily. It looks very
Right.
difficult, looks
Right.
very nerve wracking, all those
Right.
things. And then that's, oh wait, it's how is it a challenge or is it an opportunity? It's the same thing. How do you look
Yeah.
at it? And I think Mike knew that for me, and let me discover it for myself and run with it. So I hope the listeners embrace that and all the stories.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You are absolutely welcome. Absolutely. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a great trip to Costa Rica, okay?
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yep.
All right, bye.
Bye bye.